If you wait for a bad actor to fill up the disk space on your server in order to know that a data breach occurred, then you probably waited too long.
So John, I hear you have a story about a company that found out they were hacked once they noticed that their servers were maxed out?
Yeah, so that is kind of the punchline to the story is, ironically, well, first of all, this is a little bit of an older story, but the details are only coming to light now because of some court filings and whatnot. But back in 2016, a company had discovered that they had been breached. And the way that they discovered that there was a data breach in play on their web server was that it actually the disk was filled on it. So they got an alarm about a disk filled issue, went to research that, and they said, oh, wait a second, this is some big bundle of stolen data that's all bundled up here on our server. What's going on? They backtrack it, and through the course of looking at that, they're like, holy cow, not only did someone get in here and bundle up a lot of data from their system, they also have been in there at least since 2014, so for about 2 years, which is not unusual. I mean, we've investigated other data breaches here and there for some customers and whatnot, and we've seen data breaches that sometimes can be, many years long before they're really actually discovered and understood. So I wouldn't say that, that's an unusual thing to happen.
Not an uncommon thing, right?
The kind of bad thing about it here is that there was, so it had like the personal details of about 1 million users for the various data that they had on the system. I believe there was some credit card and CVV info and whatnot in there as well. The reason I kind of wanted to bring this story up was mostly because I think that this is a good example of people who have servers and systems. They really, especially for websites, or even any system, you should have some sort of tripwire type mechanism. There's a lot of other, I'm mentioning tripwire, but there's a lot of other file integrity checking type things that you can, software you can put on servers. And especially where you keep a lot of sensitive information, it's good to have something that's doing some file integrity monitoring, especially in your web content directories. Because we know that in a lot of cases that we'll see initial systems get compromised through some sort of vulnerability on the website, a web shell gets deployed, and from there they can kind of move it laterally and start collecting stuff. But if you're watching those directories, that probably should never change unless there's some sort of source code change to the system. You would pick up on the fact that a web shell got dropped onto the system or things like that. So, having something like that would be a recommendation I would make to people. And to segment your networks more properly as well. If this is a back-end database, have it segmented so that it can only be accessed through proper control channel.
The fact that a lot of the basic triggers, mechanisms to kind of identify the traffic or secure your data or secure your site or secure your servers, patching, all of the things that, are commonly discussed on this show here, many of them were not done at all. Even in 2014 and 2016, to hear that a company with that much data is still doing that is kind of upsetting, actually.
This is something you should probably pay attention to with your systems. And because you don't want to be the next person to end up in a story like this, in the news, obviously. It was kind of amusing that the only reason they found out was because the bad guy made a mistake, so to speak, by filling up the disk. If he had never done that, it could have been still going on to this day.
No other tripwires in place at all, right?
Right. If the actor was more stealthy and conscious about not filling up the disk or staying more low profile, they could have stayed in there for even longer.
Make sure you're spending the time and budget and effort into your cybersecurity practices. Make sure you have things that are triggering and monitoring, the activity that's happening.